Unmasking Success, the revolutionary power of self love and emotional intelligence. Welcome, everyone, to a groundbreaking episode of the Black CEO podcast. Today, we're about to embark on a journey that will challenge everything you thought you knew about success, personal growth, and what it truly means to thrive in our fast paced world. I have the extraordinary privilege of sharing with you the profound wisdom I gained from interviewing Sherrelle Green, a visionary whose insights are quite literally transforming lives and reshaping the landscape of personal development. Sherrelle isn't just another self help guru, she's a force of nature, a beacon of light in a world that often feels shrouded in darkness. Her work is creating ripples of change that are growing into waves, touching lives across the globe and making our world a more compassionate, emotionally intelligent place. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Oh, great, another feel good talk about loving yourself. But trust me, folks, this isn't your garden variety self help spiel. What I'm about to share with you is nothing short of revolutionary. It's a paradigm shift that could very well be the key to unlocking your full potential, both personally and professionally. So let's dive in, shall we? Buckle up because this ride might get a little bumpy, but I promise you it's going to be worth it. Sherrelle's message boils down to three core principles: the critical importance of self care and self love, the power of mastering detachment, and the transformative impact of emotional intelligence. Now, I know these might sound like buzzwords you've heard before, but stick with me. The way Sherrelle approaches these concepts is anything but ordinary. Let's start with self care and self love. Now, I'll be the first to admit when I first heard Sherrelle talk about this, I was skeptical. I mean, come on, in today's cutthroat world, who has time for self care? We're all trying to hustle, to get ahead, to be the best. Taking time for ourselves, that's for the weak, right? Wrong. So wrong. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was the epitome of what we think a successful entrepreneur should be. She was working 80-hour weeks, surviving on a diet of coffee and sheer determination. From the outside, she had it all: a thriving business, industry accolades, the works. But inside, Sarah was a ticking time bomb. It all came to a head during a crucial pitch meeting. There she was, in front of potential investors when suddenly she couldn't breathe. Her heart was racing, her vision blurred. Sarah was having a full blown panic attack right there in the boardroom. Now I can almost hear some of you thinking, well, that's just the price of success, right? Wrong again. This, my friends, is the price of neglecting yourself. It's the inevitable outcome of buying into the toxic belief that success requires sacrificing everything, including your own well being. This is where Sherrelle's wisdom really hits home. She advocates for a radical shift in how we approach our lives, both personal and professional. It starts with healing, acknowledging our wounds, our traumas, our limiting beliefs. It's about looking inward and addressing the root causes of our constant need to prove ourselves, often at the expense of our well being. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds great, but I don't have time for all that introspection. I've got goals to achieve. I get it, I really do. But here's the kicker: taking time for self care and healing isn't just good for your soul, it's good for your bottom line too. Let's go back to Sarah for a moment. After her panic attack, she realized something had to change. She started small, setting aside 30 minutes each morning for meditation and journaling. She began to prioritize sleep, aiming for a solid 7 hours each night. She even, gasp, started taking weekends off. The results? They might surprise you. Within 6 months, Sarah's productivity had skyrocketed. Her team reported higher job satisfaction and lower turnover. And those investors she was pitching to when she had her panic attack, they came back impressed by the positive changes they saw in Sarah and her company culture. But self care is just the beginning. Cheryl's second key insight is about mastering detachment. Now, before you start picturing some stoic, emotionless robot, let me explain. Detachment in this context is about learning to set healthy boundaries. It's about understanding that you can care deeply about your work, your relationships, your goals without letting them consume you entirely. This is where things get really interesting. Sherelle argues, and I've come to agree, that mastering detachment is crucial for setting boundaries in life. And let me tell you, as someone who used to pride themselves on being available 24/7, this was a game changer. Take the case of Marcus, a brilliant software engineer I met during my research. Marcus was the go-to guy in his company. Need a last-minute fix for a critical bug? Call Marcus. Client wants a new feature ASAP. Marcus is your man. He was always on, always available, and his work was impeccable. But there was a problem. Marcus was miserable. His personal life was in shambles. He couldn't remember the last time he'd had a real conversation with his partner that didn't involve work. His friends had stopped inviting him out because he always canceled at the last minute due to work emergencies. Marcus was living at work and merely existing everywhere else. This is where the power of detachment comes in. Sherrelle's teachings help me understand that setting boundaries isn't about caring less. It's about caring more effectively. It's about recognizing that you can be committed to your work without sacrificing every other aspect of your life. For Marcus, this meant learning to say no. It meant setting clear working hours and sticking to them. It meant trusting his team to handle issues without him always being on call. And you know what? The sky didn't fall. The company didn't collapse. In fact, his team stepped up, feeling more empowered and trusted. Marcus's work improved because he was coming to it refreshed and focused, rather than burnt out and resentful. But here's where it gets really powerful. As Marcus learned to set boundaries at work, he found it easier to set boundaries in other areas of his life too. He started standing up for himself in his personal relationships. He rediscovered old hobbies and interests. He became more than just his job title. He became a whole person again. This brings us to Sherrelle's third key insight, and in my opinion, the most transformative: the power of emotional intelligence. Now, I know emotional intelligence might sound like some fluffy, new age concept, but stick with me here. This stuff is real and it's powerful. Emotional intelligence is about understanding and managing your own emotions and being able to recognize and influence the emotions of others. It's about being aware of how you're feeling, why you're feeling that way, and how those feelings are impacting your thoughts and actions. And let me tell you, in both personal and professional settings, this skill is absolutely crucial. Let me share a story that really drove this home for me. Meet Alicia, a talented marketing executive I encountered in my research. Alicia was smart, creative, and driven. She consistently came up with brilliant campaign ideas that wowed clients. But there was a problem. Alicia was terrible at collaborating with others. She'd get so caught up in her own vision that she'd steamroll over her teammates' ideas. She'd get defensive when receiving feedback, seeing it as a personal attack rather than constructive criticism. Her emotions would often get the better of her in high-stress situations, leading to outbursts that left her team walking on eggshells. Despite her undeniable talent, Alicia's lack of emotional intelligence was holding her back. She was passed over for promotions, and her team's productivity suffered due to the tense work environment she created. Alicia was a perfect example of how raw talent and intelligence aren't enough in today's interconnected world. This is where Sherrelle's teachings on emotional intelligence come in. Through various exercises and practices, Alicia learned to tune into her emotions. She started recognizing the physical signs of stress and frustration before they escalated into outbursts. She learned to pause and reflect before reacting, considering how her words and actions might impact others. But it wasn't just about managing negative emotions. Alicia also learned to harness the power of positive emotions. She started celebrating her team's successes more openly, expressing gratitude for their contributions. She became more empathetic, really listening to her colleagues and trying to understand their perspectives. The transformation was remarkable. Within a year, Alicia went from being seen as a talented but difficult team member to being recognized as a rising star in leadership. Her team's productivity soared, and the work environment became more collaborative and innovative. Alicia wasn't just succeeding, she was elevating everyone around her. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, that's all well and good, but I'm not some emotional wreck who needs fixing. And you know what? You might be right, but here's the thing. Emotional intelligence isn't just about fixing problems. It's about unlocking potential you might not even know you have. Think about it. How many great ideas have gone unheard because someone was too afraid to speak up in a meeting? How many potential collaborations have been missed because of simple misunderstandings? How much time and energy do we waste on interpersonal conflicts that could be resolved with better communication? Emotional intelligence is the key to navigating all of these situations and more. It's about creating an environment, both within yourself and in your interactions with others, where creativity can flourish, where diverse perspectives are valued, and where conflicts become opportunities for growth rather than sources of division. But here's the real kicker, the insight that ties everything Sherrelle taught me together. All of this, the self-care, the detachment, the emotional intelligence, it's all part of a larger spiritual journey. Now, before you roll your eyes thinking, I'm about to go all woo-woo on you, hear me out. That's why when Sherrelle talks about spirituality, she's not talking about any specific religion or belief system. She's talking about recognizing that we are more than just our jobs, our achievements, or our failures. She's talking about connecting with something larger than ourselves, whether that's a higher power, a sense of purpose, or simply the interconnectedness of all things. This spiritual perspective is what gives all these practices their true power. When you start seeing your life as a journey of growth and self discovery rather than just a series of goals to be achieved, everything changes. Self care becomes not just a way to avoid burnout, but a sacred act of honoring your own worth. Detachment becomes not just a technique for setting boundaries, but a recognition that your value doesn't depend on external validation. Emotional intelligence becomes not just a skill for better communication, but a way of deepening your connection to yourself and others. So, where does this leave us? What do we do with all this information? Well, if there's one thing I've learned from Sherrelle, it's that knowledge without action is pretty much useless. So, let me challenge you to do something different after hearing this talk. First, prioritize self care. And I'm not just talking about bubble baths and face masks, although those are great too. I'm talking about real meaningful self care. Set aside time each day for reflection and introspection. Pay attention to your physical and emotional needs. Treat yourself with the same kindness and consideration you'd offer a dear friend. Second, practice detachment. Start small. The next time you feel yourself getting overly wrapped up in a situation, whether it's a work project, a personal conflict, or even just a bad mood, take a step back. Remind yourself that you are not your circumstances. Your worth is not determined by external factors. This simple shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating. Finally, work on your emotional intelligence. Start by simply paying more attention to your emotions. What triggers certain feelings? How do those feelings manifest in your body? How do they influence your thoughts and actions? As you become more aware of your own emotional landscape, you'll naturally become more attuned to the emotions of others as well. Remember, this isn't about becoming some perfectly zen, eternally happy version of yourself. It's about becoming more authentically you. It's about creating a life that's not just successful by external standards, but deeply fulfilling on a personal level. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought. Throughout this talk, we've touched on some pretty heavy topics: healing, self love, emotional intelligence. And I'll be the first to admit my delivery might have been a bit rough around the edges at times. I'm passionate about this stuff, and sometimes that passion comes out as intensity. But here's the beautiful thing: that passion, that intensity, it's a reflection of the wisdom within each and every one of us. We all have the capacity for profound growth and transformation. We all have the ability to create lives of meaning and purpose, and it all starts with how we treat ourselves. So I challenge you, take these insights from Sherrelle Green and put them into practice. Embrace self-care, master detachment, cultivate emotional intelligence, and above all, remember that this journey, this wild, beautiful, sometimes messy journey we call life, is a spiritual experience. Approach it with curiosity, with compassion, and with an open heart. Now, as we come to the end of this talk, I want to leave you with a call to action that's going to shake you to your core. It's time to wake up, folks. It's time to realize that the way we've been chasing success, the way we've been living our lives, it's not just unsustainable, it's downright destructive. We've been sold a lie. The lie that success means sacrificing everything: our health, our relationships, our sanity, on the altar of achievement. But today, right here, right now, we're calling BS on that lie. I want you to imagine a world where success isn't measured by the size of your bank account or the impressiveness of your job title. Imagine a world where success is measured by the depth of your relationships, the peace in your heart, the positive impact you have on others. That world isn't some far off utopia. It's right here, waiting for us to claim it. But it's not going to happen by itself. It's going to take each and every one of us making a conscious decision to do things differently. So here's my challenge to you. For the next 30 days, I want you to radically prioritize your own well being. I want you to treat self care not as a luxury, but as a non negotiable part of your day. I want you to set and enforce boundaries like your life depends on it. Because guess what? It does. I want you to start paying attention to your emotions and the emotions of those around you. Really listen, really see people. Connect on a level deeper than small talk and social media likes. And most importantly, I want you to start seeing your life as the spiritual journey it is. Every challenge, every joy, every mundane moment, it's all part of your growth, your evolution. This isn't going to be easy. You're going to face resistance from others, sure, but mostly from yourself. That little voice that says you don't have time for this, that you need to keep pushing, keep grinding. I want you to look that voice square in the eye and say, not anymore. Because here's the truth: the world doesn't need more burnt out hustle culture zombies. The world needs you, the real you, the whole you, the emotionally intelligent, self aware, boundary setting you. So, are you ready? Are you ready to revolutionize your life? Are you ready to redefine success on your own terms? Are you ready to embrace the power of self love, detachment, and emotional intelligence? The choice is yours. You can walk out of here and go back to business as usual, or you can decide right here, right now, to be part of a movement that's changing the way we live, work, and relate to each other. Remember, every journey begins with a single step. What will your first step be? The world is waiting. Your true self is waiting. The time for transformation is now. Thank you